General Hospital will reveal. Willow felt as if her entire world was crumbling as the truth slowly unfolded before her eyes. She couldn't believe that Sasha would conceal such a serious secret, manipulating Jason's trust to protect herself. Anger surged within her, but beyond that, she felt an overwhelming sense of betrayal. She wondered what could have driven Sasha to such deception, what made her choose to hide the truth rather than face the consequences. Willow knew that Michael had no idea about any of this, which only made the situation even more complicated. She felt a responsibility to bring the truth to light, yet at the same time, she understood that doing so would send shockwaves through everyone's lives. Unable to remain silent any longer, Willow secretly confronted Sasha, her gaze sharp, filled with fury and disappointment. She needed to hear the confession from Sasha's own lips, to understand why she had chosen deceit. But Sasha, as always, was not one to surrender easily. She scrambled for excuses, weaving a web of justifications to protect herself. However, Willow had come prepared, her words as sharp as daggers, leaving Sasha with no room to escape. When presented with the undeniable evidence Willow had gathered, Sasha knew she could no longer keep up the facade. Overcome with fear and regret, she finally broke down, her eyes glistening with tears as she admitted the truth: her child was, in fact, Michael's. Yet, she desperately begged Willow to keep it a secret, terrified of losing everything. Willow stood frozen, torn between anger and pity. A part of her wanted to protect those involved, to prevent more pain, but another part of her couldn't forgive the betrayal. She knew that if Michael found out, he would never forgive Sasha. And then there was Jason, the man who had trusted and defended Sasha, prepared to take on the role of a father. If he discovered that he had been deceived, it would shatter everything between them. The weight of the decision pressed down on Willow, but one thing was certain: the truth could not stay hidden forever. And when it finally surfaced, the consequences would be far more devastating than anyone could imagine. Seething with rage at the betrayal and deception, Willow found herself unable to maintain her composure. She felt utterly deceived, not just by Sasha, but also by Michael, his silence, his obliviousness, or worse, the possibility that he had known all along. The fury inside her burned hotter with each passing moment, consuming any rational thought. This wasn't just about a lie, it was about trust shattered beyond repair, about the life she had built with Michael being nothing more than a fragile illusion. Sasha had crossed an unforgivable line, and Willow had no intention of letting her get away with it. Determined to make Sasha suffer, Willow abandoned any notion of restraint. She wasn't interested in pointless confrontations or emotional outbursts that would amount to nothing. Instead, she channeled her rage into something far more calculated: revenge. A slow, merciless downfall, one that Sasha would never see coming. Willow began her assault subtly, spreading whispers through Port Charles, igniting the kind of gossip that would ripple through the town's elite like wildfire. She ensured that Sasha's reputation crumbled, tarnishing her image within the social circles she relied on. Carefully crafted rumors painted Sasha as a deceitful opportunist, someone willing to manipulate even those closest to her for personal gain. At first, Sasha brushed off the rumors, assuming they were just the idle talk of a few jealous socialites. But as days turned into weeks, she realized the full extent of the damage. Invitations to exclusive events were quietly rescinded. Friends became distant, offering empty smiles before turning away, whispering behind her back. Business opportunities that once seemed secure mysteriously evaporated. The walls were closing in, and no matter how hard she tried to counter the rumors, no one was willing to listen. Every door she knocked on was slammed shut. Every potential ally now saw her as tainted, untrustworthy. Sasha grew desperate. She sought Michael's help, but even he seemed hesitant, overwhelmed by the growing backlash. The seeds of doubt that Willow had planted were taking root, poisoning every aspect of Sasha's life. She was trapped in a web of social exile, her reputation in ruins, her support system gone. Panic set in as she realized she had no one left to turn to. The very people she had once confided in now looked at her with suspicion, some even with contempt. Willow had orchestrated the perfect storm, and now she stood back, watching as Sasha struggled to stay afloat, knowing that this was only the beginning of her downfall. But Willow wasn't finished. This wasn't just about humiliating Sasha, it was about stripping her of everything, making her feel the same pain, the same sense of betrayal. The next phase of her plan would be even more personal, more devastating. Sasha had taken something from Willow, and now, she would make sure Sasha lost everything in return. As Sasha's life unraveled before her eyes, she realized there was no escape from the relentless wrath of Willow. Every attempt to salvage her reputation, to regain control, was met with an invisible wall, one that Willow had meticulously built around her. The whispers had turned into full-blown accusations, the side glances into outright hostility. Everywhere she went, she felt like an outcast, a woman condemned by society for sins she had no way of erasing. It wasn't just the social circles that rejected her, her career opportunities had crumbled, her financial stability wavered, and even those she once considered friends now hesitated to associate with her. There was no sanctuary left in Port Charles, no place where she could escape the shame and isolation that clung to her like a shadow. Desperation clawed at her from within. She could feel the walls closing in, suffocating her. There was only one way out, she had to leave. But fleeing Port Charles wouldn't be simple. She had nothing left, no real resources, and she couldn't do it alone. As she weighed her options, only one name remained in her mind, Michael. Despite everything, despite Willow's campaign to turn the world against her, Sasha knew Michael had always had a good heart. He was the only person who might still see her for more than just her mistakes. Summoning every ounce of courage she had left, she reached out to him. Their meeting was tense, the air thick with unspoken words, with the weight of betrayal and regret. Michael was still reeling from everything, his trust in Sasha had been shattered by her lies, and the revelation about the child's true paternity had left him questioning everything. But as he looked at her, truly looked at her, he didn't see the manipulative woman the world had painted her as. He saw someone broken, someone who had made terrible choices but was now paying for them in the worst way possible. And more than that, he saw the life growing inside her, a child that was his. No matter how much anger or disappointment lingered, he couldn't ignore the fact that he had a responsibility, to his unborn child, if to no one else. Sasha pleaded with him, her voice trembling as she told him that she couldn't stay in Port Charles any longer. If she did, she would lose everything, maybe even the chance to raise her baby. Willow wouldn't stop until she was completely ruined, and Sasha couldn't bear to bring a child into a world where she was seen as nothing more than a pariah. She needed to leave, and she needed his help. Michael hesitated. He knew what helping Sasha would mean. It would mean turning his back on Willow, on the life he had carefully built. It would mean betraying the woman he had once loved, the woman who had every right to be furious. But as he looked into Sasha's tear-streaked face, as he heard the desperation in her voice, he made a decision that even he hadn't expected. "I'll help you," he said, his voice firm despite the uncertainty swirling within him. There was no turning back now. Michael quickly began making arrangements, ensuring that Sasha could leave Port Charles without a trace. He used his connections discreetly, securing false documentation, a private mode of transportation, and a place where she could stay once she was gone. He knew that if Willow found out, there would be consequences, perhaps even ones he wasn't prepared to face. But something inside him told him this was the right thing to do. If nothing else, he had to protect the child Sasha carried. The night of her departure arrived faster than either of them had anticipated. The city felt different under the cover of darkness, quieter, as if it too was holding its breath, waiting to see if they would succeed. As Michael helped Sasha into the car that would take her away, he felt a strange mix of emotions, guilt, relief, fear. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Sasha nodded, gripping his hand for a brief moment before letting go. "I don't have a choice." And with that, she was gone, disappearing into the night, leaving behind a city that had turned its back on her. Michael watched as the car faded into the distance, knowing that this decision would change everything. He had just betrayed Willow in a way she would never forgive. And when she found out, there would be no escaping the storm that was sure to follow. Without a word of warning, Michael orchestrated Sasha's departure under the cover of darkness. Every detail was meticulously planned. Each step designed to ensure that no one, especially Willow, would catch wind of the escape until it was too late. He arranged for a discreet driver, secured false identification, and provided her with just enough funds to start over without attracting suspicion. The weight of his decision bore down on him as he watched her prepare to leave, knowing that once she crossed the threshold of Port Charles, there would be no coming back, not without dire consequences. Sasha, her face pale from exhaustion and anxiety, clutched her small bag tightly. Inside were only the essentials, a few changes of clothes, documents that would allow her to pass through customs, and the last remnants of the life she had once known. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it was her only chance. Germany awaited her, a foreign land, far from the chaos of Port Charles, where she hoped to build a new life for herself and the unborn child she carried. The baby was all that mattered now, the only thing she had left to hold on to. The car ride was silent except for the occasional hum of the engine. Sasha's heart pounded as the town faded into the distance. She dared not look back, dared not let sentimentality weaken her resolve. The further she got, the better. Every mile that separated her from Willow felt like a breath of relief, yet a lingering fear remained. What if it wasn't enough? What if Willow found her? Back in Port Charles, Willow had no intention of letting Sasha simply disappear into the night without consequences. She had underestimated Sasha before, but she wouldn't make that mistake again. Though Sasha had slipped through her fingers for now, Willow refused to believe this was the end. She kept close tabs on every possible lead, who Sasha had last spoken to, who might have helped her, where she could have gone. If Sasha dared to return, she would find Willow waiting for her, ready to strike. The feud between them had reached an uneasy pause, but the battle was far from over. The betrayal, the deception, the bitterness, it was all still there, simmering beneath the surface. Willow knew Sasha too well, she wouldn't stay away forever. No matter how far she ran, no matter how much she tried to erase the past, it would always catch up to her. Sasha had escaped, but for how long? As the plane lifted off the runway, carrying her across the ocean, she let out a shaky breath. She was leaving behind everything she had ever known, trading it for an uncertain future. A future where she could live without fear. A future where she could protect her child from the wrath that threatened to consume them both. But deep down, a question gnawed at her, was this truly the end? Or was it only the calm before the next storm? Stay tuned for the next gripping episodes to uncover what fate has in store for Sasha and Michael. Will they find the peace they so desperately seek, or will the ghosts of their past drag them back into the chaos they thought they had escaped? Though they have left Port Charles behind, the shadow of vengeance looms over them, ready to strike at any moment. Sasha may believe that putting an ocean between her and her enemies will keep her safe, but some grudges refuse to fade with distance. As they try to build a new life in Germany, the weight of their decisions begins to take a toll. Michael, despite his best efforts to protect Sasha and their unborn child, finds himself haunted by guilt. He has betrayed Willow in a way that may never be forgiven, and he knows that sooner or later, the consequences will catch up to him. He tries to focus on the future, on giving Sasha and the baby a fresh start, but something in the back of his mind tells him that their troubles are far from over. Meanwhile, back in Port Charles, Willow is seething with rage. The betrayal she has suffered is too deep, too personal to simply let go. Michael was the one person she believed she could always trust, yet he had chosen to side with Sasha. The very woman who had deceived them all. That betrayal has changed something in Willow. The woman who once sought fairness and justice now burns with a desire for retribution. And she is not alone. Drew, already grappling with his own reasons for resenting Sasha, has made a silent vow to ensure that neither she nor Michael will find happiness after what they have done. He sees their escape as an insult, a challenge that cannot go unanswered. With his influence and resources, he begins to quietly pull strings, working behind the scenes to track them down. Though they have fled, Sasha and Michael are far from safe. The game is far from over. Whispers of their whereabouts start to circulate. Willow, with her relentless determination, digs deeper, using every connection she has to uncover the truth. She knows Michael too well, he wouldn't abandon his life without a plan. And she intends to find out exactly what that plan is. What happens when Sasha and Michael realize they can never truly escape? How long before their past comes crashing down on them, bringing with it a storm of vengeance they never anticipated? And when Willow and Drew finally close in on them, what price will they have to pay for their actions? One thing is certain, this is only the beginning. The battle has just begun, and the war for justice, revenge, and redemption is far from over. Don't miss the next explosive chapters as this thrilling drama continues to unfold.